Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Oh, hi, Marks. What a story.
And we are here to talk about the best of AEW and WWE over the last week. Um, Interesting week. And, I don't, I think it's an interesting week all around. And I think we have a pretty stacked show today. So we're just going to kick off into that
Yeah.
with our lockup, which is Raw for the week. And, oh boy, was it. So we're in Belgium. So they're overseas all week this week and next week I think too. Um, but we're in Brussels, Belgium. And I'll say this so I don't have to repeat it a whole bunch of times. Every one of these buildings is giant and has like 100,000 people in it, and they're hot. They're hot, hot. People who aren't even that over are able to like control crowd. It's hot.
I know that, in general, overseas crowds are great. And I have a very, other than, a little bit about the age of exploration that doesn't paint the country in the greatest light, I know very little about Belgium. I had no clue that they had this kind of following
Me
in
either.
Belgium. Zero. That is my ignorance talking full out. If people, if we've got any Belgian people listening, I am so sorry that I underestimated you. You guys had like I didn't want. I only watched the one part of the show, and you know which part of the show
But
it
we're going to talk about
was.
it pretty much
We're gonna
immediately.
talk about probably what next.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, watching that 25, 30 minute clip or something like, holy cow, you guys showed up and showed out. So, bravo.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's loud. The city locations, I mean, I'm pretty sure SmackDown was in Bologna, Italy. The SmackDown we're about to talk about, which is weird that that's the city they picked. Like, we're not in Rome or anything like that. But giant stadium in there and just packed to the gills and just everybody's chanting, constant chanting. It's just like when AEW does a show in like England, and it's just like constant chanting. Kind of, they are into it all the way. So John Cena's music hits immediately, and the crowd cheers and boos, and it's a really nice mix of "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." Like, and they're doing that
Classic stuff.
pretty much. They're pretty split and pretty like 50-50 until he does his promo. And then he calls them all abusive and calls us all abusive. We're apparently his fan base has been abusive for the last 20 years, and he's done being abused and he's breaking up with all of us. Um, what we all wanted was for John to come out and tell us why he sold his soul to the Brock. What we got was John Cena gaslighting us all into saying that um, we've been his abusers, basically. Um, at which point Cody Rhodes came out and said, "Whoever this isn't John Cena. If you bring this guy to WrestleMania, I'm going to run him over, run him out, and finish his career early." I'm happy to fight John Cena, and that's who I signed up to fight was John Cena, not whoever this whiny bitch is. All right,
It was
Cody.
a really, really weird segment just on the face of it. If you take out the crowd entirely
Hmm.
and look at its components, it's a very strange segment because you have Cena come out and you have him essentially cut a You People promo
Yeah,
10 years too late. Like, if he had done this on, like 11 years ago, like leading up to WrestleMania 30 or something like that, and they turned him heel then, it would have been absolutely valid. 100% valid because we have been getting on his case over and over and over and over again. But I mean, once WrestleMania hits, he beats Rusev and he goes on that U.S. title run. Legend.
Mm-hmm.
He has that great run with great. The crowd at that point had turned into a work rate crowd, and they got work rate out of John Cena, and they
Yeah.
got what they wanted. Like if they weren't going to have him turn heel, the best that they could hope for was having to have bangers with all their favorite guys, including guys like Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, and Cesaro, and all these guys that even when he beat them, he made them look like $1,000,000, which was not what we had gotten used to seeing from Cena.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 11 years ago, that would have been an absolutely 100% justified promo. But since then, all the crowd has done, about 80% of the time, has been cheer him and welcome him back with open arms. So that doesn't make any sense. And then Cody comes out and pulls a Triple H and just completely buries him.
Yeah.
Completely buries the guy and calls him a whiny bitch. And like, it's like, and also Cena doesn't mention The Rock once the entire promo. He doesn't mention The Rock. He doesn't mention an association with him. He doesn't mention going after his 17th world title and breaking the record. He does none of that. And then Cody just comes out and does his best Triple H impression. And it's like, this is such a weird segment. Like, it's well delivered. Cena delivers it well. He delivers it in an entertaining fashion. But the content is all wrong for this decade. Like, it just, especially, didn't they just have somebody turn pretty recently and cut a You People promo? If I'm not mistaken, like, not that long ago.
Miz.
Yeah, like,
Miz turned back
of all the
heel and cut a
people,
You People promo after he attacked R-Truth.
of all the people to tie himself to, just those two are just tied at the hip forever, almost as much as he and Orton are tied at the hip forever.
Yeah.
Not the greatest comparison when you get right down to it. So it was, I enjoyed this segment, but I thought it was just the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Like on most levels, it was the wrong way to go about it.
The subject matter was dumb. Like if he would have like at least tied it to the story somehow, like mention The Rock, mention your, how you sold your soul to The Rock because you want your 17th world title. Like do something. Whoever like Cena, if you did this on your own, wrong. If a writer did this and gave you the bullet points, wrong. It's just this was not well done as far as writing. Did Cena do his best with what he got? Yeah, yeah. But I think even he knew he like this doesn't make sense. Why am I not talking about any of the stuff that's happened? And then Cody Rhodes comes in immediately and he's like, "Well, since this is what happened, I'm gonna whoop your ass." Like I mean, it was like a Stone Cold versus Billy Gunn promo.
Yeah, it sucked. Like it was, I mean, the babyface should, if those lines were delivered from the exact opposite way, it would be, it wouldn't fit this program, but it would be better because at least the babyface has something to prove. You don't want, it's like if you just say, oh, this heel, he's nothing. It's like, and then have Cena just exit in a huff. He doesn't even answer it
Yeah,
back. Like it's like Cena. If Cena had said that to Cody, it's like you have a lot. You don't know what you're in for, and you have a lot of work to do if you think you're on my level. That's one thing for the heel to say that to the babyface because then the babyface can prove it. But what if the heel proves it? That doesn't serve anybody. The
yeah,
heel is supposed to lose. Like it doesn't make any sense. It just
yeah. Like,
very very strange
does
choices made
John
here.
Cena win the 17th world title? Then Cody has like a crisis of faith and conscience when he's like, "I said he was nothing and he beat me. Am I nothing?" Like
Yeah, I mean, you could go that way, but you'd have to. you have to be really deft with how you built it in the intervening weeks, because as it stands right now, he called he called Cody called Cena a pansy, and if Cody wins, he doesn't gain anything. If Cody loses, he's lost everything.
Yeah.
It's like how we were talking a few weeks ago about you know uh you know
Jay and
maybe
Gunther.
not so much to say, but like if if you're in wrestling in high school and you come across, and it's co-ed, and you come across the one girl on the other squad. Okay, well, if you win, you beat a girl. If you've lost, you lost to a girl. Again, I will stress that I don't feel the same way. Ability is ability, and they're all regimented weight classes anyway. But it's the same kind of, maybe antiquated, but same kind of thought process here. It's like if you bury the guy and then he beats you, then you look worse. Cody Rhodes looks worse. You never want Cody Rhodes, poster boy, to look worse.
But there's
You
a good
want to make it look
possibility
like
he
he's in
will.
danger. You want to make him look like he's in danger, but you don't want to make him look like he lost to a wuss.
Mm, yeah. Well, we'll see how this turns out because I mean, there's a good chance that Cody will lose to him just for the record thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna handle this.
I mean, The Rock better show up, is all I'm saying.
Right. So then after that we had our no holds barred match with Penta and Ludwig Kaiser, and the crowd is super hot for Penta. I mean, they're pretty much super hot for everything. They really like Penta. They really don't like Kaiser. At least here, I hear on other parts of the tour he's been coming out to like face reception. Um, I guess in parts of Germany and like France and stuff like that, where yeah, I think he's from.
The
Um,
more German, like German parts of Europe.
yeah. Um, so this was pretty much a basic no holds barred match, except for there wasn't any interference of any kind. Like there was no Pete Dunne. I guess they're reinforcing the fact that like him being involved in this is not to be on anybody's side. He just is himself feuding with Penta or doesn't like Penta. But he also doesn't like Ludwig Kaiser. So, I mean, I guess they kind of underscored that by not having him interfere in this at all. Um, Good back and forth. Nobody looked particularly weak, but Penta did score like a very clean win. He hit his diving destroyer finisher on a steel chair. So definitely,
Well, there you go.
yeah, definitely a clear win. But man, I kind of want them to go back to the. Um, I want them to go back to the announce table being breakable. I guess because they did a back body drop like while they're both standing on the announce table. There's a back body drop onto the announce table, and it just didn't move. And it's just so weird to me that it's so resilient now. Like I don't get it, man. Like maybe it's in the run of things like something so small, but it's such a significant change to what we expect. Now I get it. It was breakable to a point where like people would stand on it and it would break before anything happened. But it doesn't have to be that breakable. It just now it's just like a fucking stone monument. Like if basically if
Yeah.
you take somebody up there to slam them, it's like taking them up and slamming them on the stage.
The weirdest thing is it's both companies now.
Yeah,
It's both of
it
them.
is both of
And
them.
they kind of decided it kind of at the same time. I imagine independently. I don't know what the decision was there.
I wonder if there's like a company that like manufactures this specific kind of sports desk, and they're like, we have a
Maybe.
new model. It's much more resilient, and both companies were
You
like,
don't want more
hmm.
resilient. Well, it's the one we have. And it's the cheapest one.
Oh,
All
all
right.
right. Yeah, and now it's like, oh shit, it's made out of like oak. It
Yeah. Solid oak table.
looks painful to take a bump on now. It really does. Um, it's just like I've seen people take gnarly moves on it, and it just doesn't budge, man.
Yep.
It's just
It
taking
is.
everything they're throwing at it too. I think some people, like with some of the things that I've seen happen on that announce table since they've changed it, I think some people are trying to see if they can break it and are like
I bet
inadvertently
it's something
beating
that
the
the
hell
boys
out
are
of
being
their
like,
opponent because they're like, hey, let's see if we can
yeah,
break it. And the opponent's stupidly like, yeah, let's
yeah,
do that.
just to pop themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not gonna break it. Yeah, that table's gonna break somebody before somebody breaks it. I bet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, plenty of bumps happening that it's like, oh well, that didn't kill him. So, after that, we had Dakota Kai versus Ivy Nile. Um, they're really playing up this angle where like Chad Gable is like this no mask luchador. We talked about this a little bit last week, and they're like trying to get the Creed brothers position where it looks like they might get a tag title at some point here. And then they keep saying that Ivy Nile's going to be, that they're all going to hold gold. Like they're doing one of those. Everybody in the stable's going to hold gold, but um, she's getting her ass kicked a lot. Like she's just losing a lot, and so I don't know. Like we're giving a lot of vignette time to they're all going to hold gold, and she's counting a lot of lights at the same time. It's just not playing nicely together, you know. So
Do you think it's the old money in the bank mentality where it's like, oh, well, they'll never expect it when she does win if she loses and loses and loses. It's like, yeah, we won't expect it, but we won't accept it either. Like,
right, like she
you
spent
gotta meet us
months losing to
halfway.
everybody else. Yeah. Um. After that, we have the shortest match of the night: Jey Uso versus Austin Theory. It's like a clothesline and a spear, and it's over. It was literally like 15 seconds. And the
That's the
spear
guy who
was so
beat
bad
John
that
Cena.
the spear was so bad and off like angle that Michael Cole called it a crossbody. So yeah, Jey Uso is not really making any friends when it comes to his in-ring work. Like it's really looking increasingly more and more like Gunther is going to have to drag him kicking and screaming to a fantastic match because
You
Gunther's
think
not just
it's
gonna like not do
you think it's
business. He's
nerves?
he's gonna do business, and if they
Yeah,
tell him to lose the title, he's gonna do business, but he's gonna want it to at least be a good match. You
yeah.
know,
At least be believable.
yeah, it's gonna have to be believable, and this is not. I mean,
Gone are the days where he's out in the Survivor Series match in 2 minutes as the first one gone.
mhm.
It's not him anymore, man. Do you think it's just nerves? Like this is a big spot for Jay to be in. Do you think he's maybe like succumbing to the pressure?
um, it's possible. I don't really want to like comment on his mentality or anything, but it's
Mm,
possible that he could be succumbing to the pressure. But I mean, it is a big spot. It's a big deal where he's at. Who knows? Like, but at this point, I think because of situations like this, they need to stop advertising the winner gets a like main event at like the title shot equals main event at WrestleMania. Like they need to clarify and discontinue any form of like main eventing WrestleMania being involved because this
well, since
match is not going to be the main event on either
main
night. I'm
event
sorry.
hasn't meant main event in like a
Yeah, they
decade.
always got like six main
But
events. It's like the last
yeah,
three matches of each night now, basically.
yeah. Funny story. WWE didn't even invent the false main event. WCW did. They had a deal with
Oh
Kiss.
yeah, the Kiss Demon. I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the deal was that they could like use this character, the kid, the demon, right? And they were gonna do some cross promotion and stuff, but part of the deal was to have the demon in a main event. So in the middle of one of their pay per views, they gave a special attraction main event. It wasn't the real main event. It wasn't at the end of the show, but it was enough for the Kiss, who didn't know enough about professional wrestling, to realize that they'd been conned. It was in the middle of the show. It was just Dale Torborg just facing. I don't even remember who it was. It wasn't anybody at main event level. I know that, but like it was the first that I can recall fake main event, calling something a main event that clearly wasn't.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
WWE adopted that in the early 2010s.
something like
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
something like that.
um.
And that was just the norm for WrestleMania. So for a while.
Right. So we were talking about the Creeds a little bit earlier, and then we see them in action. They're going against the LWO. We got Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. Um. Of course, Gable's nowhere to be found. But then Lee and Mysterio are able to get the win, and then uh, Gable shows up, or who they're calling Grande Americano now, I guess.
Grande
In
America.
his
Big
stupid
American.
looking mask and all this stuff. It says American made. They really missed an opportunity for it to say Hecho Americano or something like that. Um, it's just I just really don't like this gimmick. Like I don't know where they're leading to, and it's not really creating any great moments like stuff like silly stuff like this normally would. It's just
Yeah.
silliness for the sake of silliness, and I'm not really into it that much. But he showed up afterwards to attack him, and he took out Mysterio and Lee, but he didn't like mess up the match or anything. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Um, Afterwards, we had our Intercontinental Championship match. Um, this is our main event of the night. Uh, I mean, this show kind of went on pretty quickly. It didn't really drag that much. A lot of wrestling stuffed in it for the most part, and the crowd stayed hot due to that. But for our
I think you
intercon,
kind of have to when the first segment goes 30 minutes.
yeah, that's true. It was really long.
It would not surprise me at all if they cut some other stuff so that other people could actually get wrestling time on TV.
They may have. But so for our main event, it was Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor for the IC title. Balor put up a good fight, and it was a really good, like hard hitting, very physical match. But in the end, Braun Breaker retains. They are the way he had to go about his promos for this match with Finn Balor were very much a like I'm still the badass asshole that I have been this entire time, but now I'm the good guy because Finn's a bad guy,
Yeah.
and it really worked. Asshole good guy Braun Breaker kind of works, man, in a way that
Yeah.
like scumbag MJF worked. It's almost the same. It works in that way.
I mean, there's always going to be a certain contingent of their audience that is going to want any champion to have a certain level of toughness. Those are the guys who like think that Kofi Kingston's work looks too fake or whatever, like that. But they get really into somebody who looks like they destroyed people, like a Braun Breaker.
Yeah,
Like I mean, and I get that. I totally get that. Everybody's suspension of disbelief lines are different, and art is subjective. I totally get it.
yeah.
I mean, what did Steve Austin really do differently to turn babyface after his program with Bret Hart, except target different people? That's literally it. He didn't do anything different.
Yeah.
He just targeted the heels instead of the baby faces. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
So I mean, there's history to prove that that can work on the right type of individual if they have the correct presentation and the correct aura and the correct skill set.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me that it would work with Braun Baker because that guy looks legit.
He does look
He looks
legit.
like a killer.
He does. He does. I'm really enjoying his work, man. I can't wait to see what the kid does next because he's different, man. He's built different than a lot of these other new guys. He's just he's pretty good, man. He really is. I enjoy
I've
his
never
work.
seen anybody run the ropes like him
Oh
ever.
no, never, never.
That
He's
in and of
so fast.
itself is just like incredible. I don't even have words to describe it. It's just gorgeous
The fact that they had the
and
streamer
violent.
dude take the because like I hate the fact that the streamer people are like getting spots at like Royal Rumble and stuff like that. Like, I hate that. I hate it. But the fact that they set it up where this kid was going to take like an unmitigated, definitely for
Full
another,
speed.
yeah, full, like, he did not let up on this guy because he was a streamer. No, he gave him the same spear he would have given, like, Roman Reigns or someone like that. He gave them the exact same one and folded that poor little bastard. And that was like the most satisfying moment of the Rumble, to be perfectly honest. It really was. It was like, I hate that this kid's even involved in this shit. And then they sent him in. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then, like, he's in there just a little bit. And then I see Braun Breaker run the ropes behind, like, run behind him, like this blur. And you're like, oh, he's about to get fucked up. And then
Yep.
the blur goes back and hits the ropes again. And just, bam. I was like, oh my God, dude. It, yeah, like, it was everything. And ever since then, I'm like, a super Braun Breaker fan. Like I'm like I really like this kid. Like he does what's good for
The only
business
thing
here.
that was bad about it was that the camera wasn't there to capture it well. Like that's it. Like the spot was executed well, the production was not.
Yeah. All the video packages afterwards had all the extraneous angles though, and they were
Which
great.
is what you needed in the moment,
Yeah.
honestly. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, dude, I'm surprised that dude had his shoes on after that point.
I'm not positive he did. Oh man, but yeah, it was wild. But yeah, this kid, this Braun Breaker kid, man, he's. I mean, I know he's a Steiner, but he
Look,
would have
he doesn't have to.
he would have got here anyway.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the way I look at nepotism is that nepotism can open the door, but your success rides on how well you go through it afterwards. So, like, you know, for every Braun Breaker, there's like a Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yeah.
or a Manu. you know? So, I mean, Braun is it's about taking your opportunities, and yeah, he was given an opportunity to try out simply because he was, he's got wrestling in his blood. But that doesn't mean he's not taking the opportunities presented to him and completely bypassing all expectations on the way. Like, dude's earning what he's getting.
Yeah, for sure. Um, now, in Raw tradition, before this match, there was a Seth Rollins promo, but it was only like a minute long, and he just basically talked about how he was going to be on SmackDown to talk to CM Punk and Roman Reigns.
How many times did he do the Snidely Whiplash laugh?
He didn't do the Snidely Whiplash laugh, but
What?
for this week's
Jeez.
what are we calling Seth Rollins? He looked like he was a plainclothes detective in the Time Cop universe. So this week it is Time Detective.
Oh no! Don't tell him that. Tony Khan's gonna want him real bad.
Uh, I think Tony Khan probably does want him real bad, but
I mean, you'd be a fool not to. But I
yeah.
mean, for the talent alone. But after a lot of the things that Rollins has said, I don't think anybody in AEW is really gonna want him there. They're probably just gonna assume that he's gonna be a giant headache if he ever went over there.
Well, he talked recently about how he was going to retire at like 45 or something, which is not too far out. So
No, it's not.
yeah.
I mean, his daughter is aging quickly. All
Mhm.
these little kids do. Trust me. I have no idea how my daughter is 2.5 right now. No idea how it got that fast. Got there that fast. So, he's going to be getting to the age where, you're making those memories that are going to sustain her for the rest of her life. So, from one dad to another, Seth, you're probably doing the right thing by I mean, he seems like he's really smart with his money. Like he's probably like I know he owns a little coffee shop. And I think it's in Dayton, but like he and Becky own a coffee shop. Like it's not like they don't have things to do. It's not like they couldn't find other projects away from wrestling if they're really that bored. But financially, you gotta believe they're set for life at this point.
Yeah, I mean, between the two of them, I bet, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, merch, books, yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably, yeah, they're probably fine.
The
Um,
only thing that I and you know what, he's had a fine career, and she's uh, been she has the incredible distinction of being probably the only woman in WWE history at any point in its history to have at one point been considered its biggest star,
yeah,
which is like, I mean, considering, not just the history of that company, but wrestling in general, that's an enormous accomplishment. For like a good 2 years, Becky Lynch was the star of the show. And you could argue that it was even more so than that, although probably not once Roman's heel turn took place.
yeah,
Um, but like the only regret that I have when she retires is that she will probably, very, 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 very likely to never get the man versus Timeless Tony, and
uh,
that makes me weep on the inside because can you imagine the kind of program they could have if given the time and given the leeway and given just ugh, it makes me weep for the lost potential in the pro wrestling space that's probably never going to happen.
right. The fact, like, I hate that, like, in any other sport, when there's multiple leagues, there's usually like an inter-league championship at some point. But in wrestling, there is not, and there should be. There should be. Like,
The problem is, I mean, the funny thing is though, the thing that prevents that from happening is the fact that you control the winner.
yeah,
Nobody wants their person that they put forth to lose.
no, no, there have to be
That's
like
the thing.
great
That's why
competition.
all these. That's why, like in the '70s, they had multiple WWF versus NWA championship matches, and almost to a one, they went to a 60-minute Broadway because nobody wanted to put the other. Nobody. It's not that they didn't want to put the other guy over. It's more so that they didn't want to be the one that was doing the job.
Yeah,
It wasn't so much the other guy. It's not that they had anything wrong with the other guy. Is they didn't want to do the job.
yeah.
They didn't want to, you know,
You don't want to look like the weaker
because
organization,
exactly. So
and it sucks.
I don't know.
But there's
Yeah,
still. I mean, think about all the matches we miss out on because of this shit.
yeah, I know. It's. I mean, Becky, to my knowledge, still hasn't re-signed with WWE. I mean, it's probable that she has, and that they're waiting for the Raw after Mania. I'm not. I'm not. Delusional, but I'm thinking that that's probably happened by now. But man, if there was ever a case for Becky to jump ship and go to AEW, working with timeless Tony Storm has got to be the number one reason, because look at the work that she's doing over there.
Yeah,
It's as good or better as anything that's going on in WWE. And it's just like from a character standpoint. And I mean, it's incredible. It's timeless. What do you want? Like, to be able to work with timeless Tony Storm is, at this point, at least in AEW terms, a license to print money.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe she wouldn't have, you know, made as much money off of merch or whatever if she came over to AEW. But I guarantee you that they could meet or beat the contract that WWE would offer her as far as the baseline was concerned.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Oh, I would argue she probably do pretty good in merch because I would also argue that she would bring a higher baseline to AEW. Like she would probably
well,
herself bringing
I,
up
I,
people.
I see what you're getting at. I just don't have as much faith in AEW's merchandising business.
Oh, well, okay, okay, fair.
It's not her drawing power.
It's
It's
their
their
t-shirt
ability to
making power.
capitalize on it. Yeah, it's their ability and their willingness to capitalize on it that I don't have as much faith in. That's all. So
Yeah, I've
I
heard a
mean,
lot of bad things about their merch booth.
did you on Blue Sky? You saw that survey going around, right?
Yeah, I filled it out. Yeah.
I filled it out too, and one of the things that I criticized them for was their horrific like lack of merchandising. Like they're leaving so much money on the table. You go to these events, and I've been to several AEW events now, and like just the offerings at the events is just paltry.
Hmm.
Like it's not diverse. You don't even have some of this stuff is for stuff that people aren't who aren't there on the show. Some of the bigger stars on the show don't have merch at the table. A lot of the stuff is like the really expensive stuff that you probably shouldn't even be putting at an arena because you know it's not going to sell. They're not going to sell too many title belts. They're not going to sell too many, $100, signed action figures and stuff like that. As cool as that stuff is, they're probably not going to sell that too much stuff at the arena. They're going to sell T-shirts. They're going to sell hats. They're going to sell programs and regular action figures, most likely.
Hmm.
You may get an occasional big spender, but like if you just focus on the stuff, on cranking out as much variety and volume of the stuff for the people that's over, you'll do so much better than trying to, you know, push all the stuff that nobody buys and carting that from arena to arena and essentially building up your losses because it's just merchant that's sitting there and not moving,
Yeah,
you know?
it's poundage that you have to ship.
Yeah.
um,
And guess what? A t shirt weighs a whole lot less than a title belt replica.
right.
So,
And see, that's the problem is uh, like every AEW T-shirt that I've seen that I was like, I really want that, and I'm ready to pull my credit card out. It's like, oh, this is a 1 hour tease, and it's only going to be there for this hour, and that was 3 hours ago,
man.
and that's usually when I see it.
One of their biggest flaws is that they know the wrestling bit really well. They don't know the marketing thing really well. They need a team that's a little bit more adept to deal with the unique opportunities that wrestling brings from a marketing standpoint. Like it's I don't know who they've got in charge, but honestly, I feel like they're just leaving so much potential money on the table. And if you follow a strategy like that and you continue to pump out like shirts that don't look like ass that you can wear out in public, you know, then that's another way of not of recouping your investment. Not only in you got the money for the item that was purchased, but you also get free marketing, free advertising. Because if it's good enough and it's like just not embarrassing to wear out in public, people will wear it out in public, and then people will see AEW everywhere. AEW, 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 and then I mean I don't know that it's probably not a huge percentage of the people who see that who are going to investigate it, but even a small percentage is enough to eventually bump up your numbers elsewhere, and then the process keeps going.
Hmm.
So I mean I'm no economics expert or anything, but this doesn't seem like I need to be.
No,
you
you
know,
don't. You don't. It's pretty much how it is. I mean, you have to have the stuff there for people to buy it.
yeah,
Who
yeah.
knew? you know. But yeah, speaking of AEW, our WWE show this week was really good. Raw was pretty good this week. A lot of wrestling time, which was odd but welcome. And with that, I guess we can get over to our shine.
All right. The shine this week is AEW Dynamite. March 19th. Uh, my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Evan. From Omaha, Nebraska. Interesting bit about the show was that with the horrendous blizzard that was just wiping across the Midwest, there were it was unclear whether there was going to be all the talent there that was supposed to be there. And I think it may have influenced how the show was put together. I know that Moxley drove 11 hours to be there, drove in all of that
Yeah.
to be there. Um, Say what you will about the guy and what he does and how he does it and this storyline, but like nobody can take away the fact that Moxley is very, very much the guy in AEW, locker room leader, company guy, you know, lives, eats, breathes, sleeps this company and its success, takes the responsibility of being the guy seriously. You know, whether you like him or not, gentle viewer or listener, I guess, gentle listener, um, whether you like his style or not, uh, it's stuff like this that proves that he is not just an asset, but probably the biggest asset in that locker room. So much respect to John Moxley. We'll get to him in a bit though.
Man.
Because
Uh,
the show opens with the International Championship Eliminator Fatal 4-Way. Last week, Speedball Mike Bailey, Orange Cassidy, uh, Ricochet, and Mark Davis all qualified for this match, the winner of which was to go on to Dynasty to face Kenny Omega for the International Championship. And the crowd was hot because outside was cold. And another cool venue, by the way, another like theatery type venue. Um, and they were hot throughout this entire match. Rick, again, this is a common theme. I hate to praise Ricochet because of who he is, but like excellent heel work from him. Uh, just like being like putting his own spin on the cowardly heel. You know, trying to get out of there, trying to create alliances. Trying to. At one point, he was on headset, just jack and jaw with people. Like it was, uh, it was, it was fun. Um, Everybody got the chance to shine. Even Mark Davis, he had this insane like deadlift pile driver that he hit on Orange Cassidy,
oh, dude,
and
that was awesome.
it looked amazing. It looked really dangerous, but I know that I mean Mark Davis. Mark Davis is safe as anybody. Like he knows what he's doing, and that's the kind of stuff that Orange Cassidy, because he's, like what, maybe 180 pounds. You know, he's so much smaller than Davis. He's probably walking around at 270 or so. You can just it's the kind those are the kind of bumps that he excels at taking, not just for his weight and his size, but also because of his gimmick is that, oh yeah, it makes sense that he's gonna flop around like a fish a little bit. He's the lazy guy. Uh but like it looked great. The finish came they did I don't think that AEW's ever done this before. They had a double winner.
Yeah.
They pulled the old they put their own twist on it because Ricochet and Speedball both pinned Mark Davis in the corner
Hmm.
at the same time, and the ref saw both of them but didn't see Ricochet's feet on the rope. I don't think I've ever seen a variation where one of the double pinners was actually cheating to do it.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this may be the first time in AEW history where they've pulled the double winner gimmick, and they've been in existence for 5.5 years now. So kudos to them for
Yeah.
pulling the trigger on one of those, on a trope like that. Um, uh, it was really cool too. The fans were ticked
Yeah.
for the right reasons. They were ticked at Ricochet. They were elated that Speedball looked like he had gotten the win and was going to be given the win initially, but then the ring announcer said, "And also Ricochet is the winner," and everybody booed the crap out of him. Exactly the kind of reactions you want for this kind of stuff. I imagine I mean, I have to think that at Dynasty that Omega's going to retain.
Yeah.
Um, Probably, if I had to guess, probably by pinning Speedball to set up another one-on-one rematch with Ricochet for Double or Nothing, and then he'll head into his champion versus champion thing with Okada at All In, which I believe would be the next big show after that. So I think that's how that's probably going to work out. Anyway, nice hot match to start the crowd off with. Um, TBS Championship. They go right into championship match here with Mercedes Moné defending against Billy Starks. And let me tell you, Billy Starks is incredible.
Hmm.
She, like, if I'm not mistaken, she started wrestling at like 13 or something ludicrous like that. And all while she was training, she's like, I think she was valedictorian of her high school. So she was able to do this and keep up on her studies and have a 4.0 grade point average and all this stuff. Like, this is a smart kid who is picking this up so quick. Like, she and Mercedes had, like, I mean, there's still a little bit of a green, a little, some rough edges to smooth out a little bit, but like, the kid is everybody a bit of prodigy as Nick Wayne is, and you know me. I've been a big Nick Wayne fan for a bit now.
Hmm.
Big supporter of his. This was Billy Stark's kind of coming out party on an AEW main show as somebody who was to be taken seriously as a contender, and I thought she did a really good job. She had some really like. There was at one point she hit what looked like was a one-winged angel that Mercedes barely missed getting spiked on her head. Like it looked like Mercedes. She tucked her chin just in time.
Right.
But like the way she landed, her foot was on the rope and everything. Like Mercedes gave a lot to make uh Billy Starks look really good, and then for the second straight time, Monet wins with the submission hold instead of the terrible impact finisher that she has. So maybe maybe other people have been giving her the same notes that we've been giving her, and
Maybe.
maybe maybe the agents are like, okay, you're gonna win by submission from here on out.
Yeah.
Oh, but I like my
No.
no, hon, no, just tap her out.
Hmm.
I mean, especially with somebody as young as Billy, I think she's only 20
Yeah.
or like something like that. She could have. I mean, with a performance like this, she can stand to lose by submission. It's not a big deal for her. But I thought it was a great kind of reintroduction for a lot of people to Billy Starks. I thought the match came off great. Um, yeah, I do definitely think this is heading towards Monet versus Athena at All In. We're gonna start kind of a slow burn. I think it would not surprise me if they gave Billy a rematch at Dynasty. But she'll lose. MJF has a little backstage uh, segment. He basically says that he's still thinking about things, but he's going to give an answer to whether he's going to accept the Hurt Syndicate's offer the following week. Uh, what do you say? There's only one horse to place your bets on, and it's MJF. So, uh, and then right in the middle of the show, and this is where I think the weather may have had an impact on things. They put the world title match in the middle of the show, which I thought was weird. Like they had hyped this up for 2 weeks in advance, and like it was just weird that they put it here. Like especially with all the shenanigans that happened in this match. Like it starts out like an Attitude Era like hardcore title match. Like it begins in the back Like it's almost like a boiler room brawl kind of deal. Uh, Cope jumps Mox as he's coming to the ring alone with his briefcase, and they even fight inside one of the production trucks. Like, like what? This is amazing. This is great.
Yeah.
I thought it was like Cope always had such a creative mind for stuff like this too. Like this was so much better than the pay per view match, leagues above it. Like we did not need a straight wrestling match for them on that card after what we had seen previously on that show. This was a match that the the storyline deserved, and it was definitely much more up their alley than a straight up wrestling match at the end of the card after 4+ hours of wrestling to a very very tired audience who only half cared about the storyline.
Right.
But like by the time they made it to the ring, they were doing just crazy stuff. Obviously, the one that everybody has been talking about and having discourse about is the use of Spike. Uh, and
Oh.
uh, yeah, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here because I saw people on Blue Sky uh chiding people for their gross out reactions to it. And I'm like, it's safer than this and it's safer than that and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, hang on. There is a point to be made here. Yes, the injuries that happen in wrestling just over the course of, taking bumps over and over again for years are worse than what we saw. Okay. Hell, I've seen Vince McMahon tear both of his quads walking to the ring. Stuff happens. Quad tear is much worse than what we saw. All
Adam Cole
things
destroyed
considered.
his ankle just jumping off the ring.
Yeah, I mean, but the difference is that's stuff that we don't actually see happening. That's stuff that's covered by clothing, by gear, by whatever. You don't notice, something's wrong, but you don't see there's no visceral reaction to be had there because you don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
When you see somebody be suplexed onto what is it? Is
An
that a
iron
cricket bat? What
toothbrush?
is that? Is it a cricket bat that has like 6-inch nails in it or
It
whatever it is?
looks like it's
I don't
just
care
like
if
a fucking 2x4 with like
like
a
I
thinner
don't even know
section for
what
a handle. Like,
yeah, like I don't even know what it is.
no.
But what the wooden part is, the handle, but like, you know, on those nails that did not bend. And they were stuck in him, and you see the image where it's stuck in his back, and Wheeler comes in, he hits the Bisaiku knee on Cope to put him down as he tries to help Cope or help Mox get the thing out of his back. It's pulling on his flesh while bleeding
Ugh.
profusely.
Oh.
Like that may not be as damaging as a completely torn ACL or like that pec injury that Cody got from lifting weights a couple years ago. And he saw all that bruising going into the Hell in the Cell
Oh
match,
God, yeah.
something like that. But it's because we see it, we have a visceral reaction. Now, if you, as an individual fan, are desensitized to that, good for you. You don't have a right to tell anybody what they can and can't be grossed out by.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to lord over everybody. Oh, it's fake. Stop being a pussy. Like, you don't have that
This is
right.
not fake.
I mean, I don't care if they were plastic nails and they still got stuck. I don't care. That's a man's flesh we saw ripping in front of our very eyes. And I'm not accustomed to that at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night on what is essentially basic cable.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, nobody. We were prepared for a street fight. Nobody said this was a death match.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mean, there's always that possibility, especially when you add Mox in there, who's absolutely a masochist.
He
But
must
like,
be.
I don't, feel like anybody is right to shame anybody for how uncomfortable this made them. And I saw a lot of that, a lot more of that going on Blue Sky than was uh than was you know I don't know what the word is than there should have been, and it made me really really disappointed in the fandom that just because you call yourself sickos doesn't mean you have to lord over your desensitization over everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, I can still you know go Meltzer with it and say this wasn't for me, but this was well executed, much like the John Cena promo. It was not what I wanted, but I can at least acknowledge that it was well executed for what it was. This is the same deal. Clearly people are still talking about it, so clearly they got the response that they wanted. They wanted people to talk about it. That video apparently now has over 1 million views on YouTube. One of AEW's most viewed videos, certainly of the week, and probably over the last months or year or so. Um, and certainly in that kind of time, that it's been less than a week now, and it's already up to 1 million views. So it got people talking. Um, and that's, I guess, what they want is more eyeballs on it. However, they're going to get it. There's a contingent that's certainly not getting that kind of stuff from WWE that wants it. So I don't know. Maybe the best part about it though was that now that they have shown that they're willing to go there, they don't ever need to do it again.
Yeah.
They can bluff it out almost indefinitely because it'll be in the back of viewers' minds. Oh, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? It's happened before. I saw it with my own eyes. You can't gaslight me. I saw that. Like, and you can bluff it out now. It's like you don't need to do that every time because you were able to show that you did it once. It's like my philosophy with like time limit draws. You can do them every once in a while, and you should do them every once in a while if you're gonna have time limits. Like WWE never does them. So like you never take it seriously. But because there are time limit draws, in fact, we're gonna see one later down the line in this review in this episode. People take it seriously, and there's an increased sense of drama because you never know when they're actually going to go the full Broadway.
Yeah.
It's an extra tool in your kit. So I'm glad to say that hopefully that's the last kind of spot we're going to see like that in a long, long
I
time.
hope so.
Hopefully. Yeah, it's not for me, guys. That being said, the finish comes when all the Death Riders make their triumphant return, which I think everybody saw coming. I think that's why they booked the rematch on a Dynamite and not on Dynasty or whatever.
Hmm.
Was oh, here we go. They're coming back from their concerto injuries. FTR came out to even the score, but it wasn't enough. Because even with them out of the way, Christian Cage decided that he wanted to punish Cope, even though he had it was Cage's own fault that he tapped out.
Yeah.
he passed out. Like that had nothing to do with the Cope, but he sent his sons in there to take advantage of things. Wayne's World uh, to Cope, but only a kick out at 2, but that led right into the Bulldog choke, and Cope passed out. Uh, so yeah, as anticipated, Mox retains and will go on to face Swerve at Dynasty. But now Swerve has to contend with the entire faction again. What's interesting too about that was afterwards, the crowd gave Cope a standing ovation as kind of it's like, okay, well, this is the last shot that you're getting, at least for a while. And Cope reaches for Dax's hand to shake, and while Cash shakes his hand, Dax, in frustration, just bails from the ring. It's like, oh, I don't necessarily think we're going to be imploding FTR to put them both on singles runs, but there's definitely something weird going on with FTR.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, this is going to be a long, drawn out thing. They've planted seeds before, so we'll see where this goes. I mean, I think it's funny that Cash was the one who in real life pulled a gun on somebody, and yet Dax is considered the hothead of the two.
Right.
But um, uh, Bandito is interviewed, and he says that he and Jericho are gonna have uh, you know something down the line, a rematch down the line after he beat up Gravity, his brother, who I didn't know they were brothers until like this segment. I didn't even realize that
Oh yeah,
because I
they've been
didn't watch the
talking about
pre-show
it.
to the. Yeah, well, I didn't see the pre-show for the pay-per-view, so I didn't even realize it.
Oh, okay.
But they did the thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a rematch, but then Johnny T comes out of nowhere and he's like, huh, uh, yeah, I challenge you, and blah blah blah. So I guess they're gonna have a match at Collision, the second Collision, not the first Collision.
Oh.
We'll explain that later. Uh, Match number 4 was Will Ospreay versus AR Fox, which I was really happy with, but disappointed with because they didn't give it a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I felt like this match could have been another 5-star classic if they'd given it like 10 more minutes. Like, I mean, and there wasn't 10 minutes to give, I guess, but like it's just it bug it bummed me out because AR Fox is, he's one of those guys I've seen on the independents for a long time now. I was been a big supporter of his. It's good to see him on TV. Even though he loses all the time. And I feel like these two had, well, Osprey has chemistry with everybody, but I feel like these two had chemistry and they could have put on something that was, a little bit meatier, but they didn't have the time. So this was, fun, kind of car crashy, but fine for what it was. But I feel like there's more to be mined from this down in the future, down the way. Um, Renee Renee gets a hold of Hangman Page, who does a very interesting interview. He said that he would never, in the past he said he never let Swerve Strickland hold the world title again, and he's nothing if he's not a man of his word. But he also says that he's going to be focusing on himself, and if people are calling shots for the Owen tournament this far ahead of time, well, he may be he may as well throw his cowboy hat in there with it, and then go on to All In to face the world champion. So I don't know where they're going with this, but I'm intrigued. I'm very, very interested to see what Hangman will do or not do in this program with Swerve and Mox. Like, I don't think Swerve is already going to be at a disadvantage because he doesn't have goons to
Mm-hmm.
chase off the Death Riders. I don't think you need to add Hangman Page in there to screw him over as well.
No.
I feel like that's overkill. Like, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very excited to see where this goes because I'm excited to see where anything goes with Hangman and Page because it's usually really really good.
Yeah.
So, Tony Storm joins commentary, which is always a joy. For the main event, nothing against Megan Bain and Chris Statlander. It was great to see another women's match on the card. It was great to see them main eventing, but it was weird that the women's main event not only was not the one with the title on the line itself, but also was over the men's world title. I don't know why that happened. I'm wondering if maybe somebody couldn't get there in time and so they had to shuffle the card around to accommodate for when people could actually get to the arena
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. Like that's the only thing I can think of for the weird placement on this because like the big, or maybe they just wanted, they knew that the Death Riders return wasn't going to send anybody home happy, and so they maybe wanted to have an angle end the show where it actually was going to make people cheer instead of boo.
Yeah.
I don't know, especially since nobody expected Cope to win anyway.
No, not at all.
Um, so I don't know, but either way, Megan Bayne and Chris Statler absolutely tore the house down. Either way, uh, I mean, I don't know what a respectful equivalent of big meaty men slapping meat would be, but this was the female equivalent of that, respectfully. Uh, no, these girls just kicked the crap out of each other. Actually, and Statlander actually took. I think she actually put in most of the offense here too, if I'm not mistaken. Like she made Megan Bayne look more uh vulnerable than anybody that she's been put in the ring with so far since her re-debut, I guess, back in January. So like Stat looked like, man, Stats looked so good since turning. I mean, really for a year. Like even during the heel run that abruptly ended, so she could turn face for no reason. Still don't have an explanation for that.
Nope.
But even then, like ever since that point, like that since her program with Willow was blown off, like Statlander has been one of the most consistent, dependable women on the roster. You put somebody in there with Statlander, you looking at it every single night, a possible match of the night contender. Um, and this was no different. Like I still don't think it beat the opener in terms of quality, uh, but it was at least as good as the TBS title match. Maybe probably a little better because these two, I mean, it was a different kind of contest. They just went hard and just beat each other. uh, the end of the match came when Bane hit the Fate's Descent, which is what they're calling her F5 finisher, on the outside. Waited for Stat to crawl back in and beat the 10 count, and then hit her with it again, which not only makes Bane look, kind of sadistic, but also uh, saves space for Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, okay, well, it still took, she was still doing the babyface thing and fighting from underneath, but she just couldn't. I mean, who could face down two of those?
Yeah.
Like it gives her an excuse to lose without making her look bad. Like this match hit all those beats great. And then afterwards, Tony Storm, there's this great freaking image where she stands up on the announce table and looks Megan Bayne, who's still in the ring, dead in the eye. And she's wearing this beautiful, like, this red, like, 1920s gown that just covers, like, her entire. And all of a sudden, you see that, her face is all just like, she's got her locked eyes with her. And her face is all scrunched up in hatred. And she gets the tape and she's just rolling it around her
Mm-hmm.
knuckles. And it's just such a. I wish I could find the image, but somebody was on Blue Sky and they posted an image of that, and it was right up there for me with that shot of Becky Lynch with the blood all over her face in the crowd, like the making of the man. Like this was that powerful an image to me. It's like, man, she looks so awesome. Like that. And so she tapes up her fist and she goes to the ring and they just kind of have a hockey fight until Tony eventually clotheslines Bane over the top rope, but Bane lands on her feet. Meanwhile, all these referees are trying to get involved. And then Tony cuts a body promo filled with sexual
Oh God, so
innuendo.
much.
It starts out with, "My God, you're a big bitch,"
Mm-hmm.
like, and the crowd just goes nuts. I don't think she can open her mouth without the crowd going nuts at this point.
No,
She's the most over person on the roster, and I don't think that's a hot take.
no, not at all.
I think that's just a point of fact. There are a lot of people who are over on this roster. Nobody's more over than Tony Storm.
No.
So she's like, "Well, you've been looking at my title belt, but you don't have much to say. So let me make it easy for you. You and me at Dynasty." And then she, says a whole bunch of sexual things. She gets on her music hits. She gets on the canvas and rides around. It was something to send the fans home happy with, and I think maybe that was a decision, a fact that played in the decision to put it on the card where it was. Um, but yeah, like I don't know, like they're building up Bane something fierce.
Yeah.
I really hope that they don't immediately put the belt on her. Like I hate short transitional title reigns, especially after the Hollywood ending, which was perfect. Do you really want to cut that short just a month later? Like, I don't know. It seems like it would be that's a Vince McMahon call. That's not a Tony Khan call. You know, you know, I don't know. Anyway, the show was great. Like, I mean, Spike aside,
Yeah,
like
Spike
seeing
aside.
somebody being, ripped apart from the outside in, and Yuta going, "Uh oh," because he can't get it
Yeah.
unstuck.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh no.
like I just I that all that aside, I think top to bottom, it was a really really good episode of Dynamite. Much better than last week's, which was kind of middling
Yeah.
in some places. Um, but yeah, like I honestly can't wait for this week. I want to see what MJF says. I want to see what Adam Page is gonna do. I want to see where they're going with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's if that's the impression that the show leaves you with, that's what you want. So I'd say that was a success.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's it for that. Let's head into the Morton, huh?
Yeah.
Our Morton for this week is SmackDown from last Friday, March 21st. Um, how do I explain this? It wasn't a bad episode of SmackDown, but it wasn't like really a good episode of SmackDown. I don't know. The crowd in Bologna, Italy was super hot. Okay, we'll put it that way. But the show itself was like it's end capped by good stuff, but the wrestling in the middle was really just kind of I'm not really into it in some cases, So, um, basically, we'll start here. We started off with Randy Orton. They did this big, uh, they did like a big video package about his win over Carmelo Hayes last week and how he almost punted him and all this. And the crowd is super into Orton. Like he's coming down to the ring for a promo afterwards, and they're singing him to the ring. They let the song play twice, I think, over and over, like, and the crowd just kept singing. Um, then Orton, he comes out, and before he even gets a word out, Kevin Owens interrupts him. And then Kevin's like, "Hey, like I didn't mean to hurt you in the process of all this other stuff." And Orton's just
Do you
basically
buy
not,
that?
yeah, but Orton's basically just not buying it. And he goes, like, "Shut up, I'm not listening to any of this. Like you're not, your apology doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Like after what you did with the pile driver and everything else you've been doing, it's just more of that." And so I'm gonna shut you up at WrestleMania, basically. So we're getting Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. I
Do you
really
think
thought
Kevin Owens is ever gonna win again?
I don't know. I really thought we were gonna get him versus Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. So now I'm like, what is Sami Zayn gonna be doing at WrestleMania?
Mm.
I don't know either. Um, Possibly breaking our hearts with a heel turn. I don't know. So then we had another video package, and this time it was kind of going over um like the Jimmy Uso and Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura, and like how they're kind of all intertwined because now we're gonna have a tag match.
Holla, holla, holla.
Yeah. So Damian was wrestling Shinsuke last week and got mauled by Drew McIntyre. And Jimmy Uso kind of saved him a little bit. So this week it's Jimmy and Damian versus Drew and Shinsuke. And it was basically just a vehicle to move forward Drew versus Damian. Like Jimmy, I don't know what's going on with Jimmy, what he's going to be doing at WrestleMania, if anything. But Damian and Drew, that's happening. We all need to get used to it, I guess. I don't know. Like this should be a good big man match, but I feel like Drew's getting the upper hand way too much on Damian. Like way too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still 4 weeks.
Yeah, we got 4 weeks, so we'll see. But yeah, this was like a 2010s WWE like slap them together, pointless tag match, really. Then we had another match that just kind of forwarded a story. So we have Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu, and this starts out being a really good big man match, or big man versus indestructible man, and Braun Strowman's getting a leg up, and Solo and Thomas show up to try to help him, but actually end up costing him the match. And then afterwards, Jacob Fatu is furious with Solo. Like, he's like, when I'm handling my business, you stay the hell out of my business, basically. Which, fair. I mean, fair. You know, you should.
I love you, Solo, but...
I love you, Solo, but yeah, stay the fuck out of my business. And that's basically the gist of it. And that was basically the whole gist of the thing. Strowman wins by DQ. But one of the reasons why he's mad is because the person who wins the match gets a shot at the U.S. title. So now they've cost Jacob a shot at the U.S. title.
So wait, Braun Strowman versus LA Knight?
Yeah, Braun Strowman versus LA Knight.
That's a match.
Yeah.
It's a match.
Yeah, basically. So last week when I couldn't remember who had interrupted Chelsea Green and the Secret Service, it was Zelina Vega. So she's got a match with Piper Niven next. And of course they're joined by Piper is escorted to the ring by the other member of the Secret Service, Alba Fire. Isla Dawn, one of them. The one that wasn't fired.
It's Alba Fire.
I think it's Alba Fire. Not sure. I don't know why I keep mixing the two up. They don't look similar. I should know, but I really didn't have a lot of exposure to either of them before one of them got fired. They were the women's tag team champions at one point, but it wasn't very long. It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But then
I mean, yeah, they're both, they're both redheaded Scottish girls. Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah. So Zelina got in a little bit of offense, but this was mostly just an ass kicking by Piper. Just to kind of strengthen like who they are, I guess. But that was pretty much it. Then Liv Morgan versus Jade Cargill was next. And Liv says she's got a problem with Jade because Jade could update her Instagram while she was hurt, but she couldn't bother telling everybody it wasn't Liv and Raquel who attacked her. Which, fair point, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Either way, they had a decent match. Cargill's definitely still needs to get her reps in. She's still kind of rough around the edges as far as wrestling goes. But they're getting through the match, and Naomi interferes, and she's like going full heel now, and she's beating up on Jade Cargill, and then kind of that leads to her being cost the match. So Liv Morgan gets the win here. I really hope they're separating this out, but I mean, it looks like we're gonna get Naomi versus probably Jade at WrestleMania. Maybe for nothing, not sure what for. So,
and you know what the funny thing is, like that looked immediately when they signed her that they were gonna put her up against Bianca, that they were setting that up from the get.
Yeah.
And now they're going this way with Naomi, with Bianca getting the women's title shot. Weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if something changed or if they never had that, or they're going to put it in their back pocket until something happens. And they had Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch in a singles match in their back pocket for ages, never pulled the trigger on it, and then lost it when Ronda left. They lost that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this is going to be one of those situations where they think that they have an infinite amount of time to put that in the back pocket? And
Probably.
they maybe will and maybe won't?
Yeah, they do that a lot too. They always try to like slow play stuff that they need to go ahead and get out of the way before it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
A lot of wrestling companies do that. I think Tony Khan made that mistake a couple of times and then decided he wasn't going to make that mistake anymore.
Yeah.
And so now we just
That's why
get
we
the
got
matches.
Osprey and Swerve so early
Yeah.
in Osprey's run.
Yeah.
Just to get out of the way,
Yeah. So after that, we had the last match of the night, but not the main event. Because this is typical for WWE. They're starting to put like big confrontation promos at the end after the last match. But our last match was Los Garces getting a title shot at the Street Profits, who are our new tag champs. It looks like, because of the vignette that they kind of played like midway through this match, it looks like Pretty Deadly and DIY, as well as the Garzas and Street Profits, are going to be all involved. I still think this is going to be like a 4-way, maybe a ladder match, maybe more teams, but definitely those 4 for these titles, for the SmackDown tag titles at WrestleMania. I'm still not sure how it's going to shake out exactly, but none of the 4 are like getting shuffled to the back. They're all still definitely a part of this. The match itself was good. I'm not really that. I mean, both teams are proficient in the ring and they're good. I'm just not excited particularly by either of these teams, you know. So I'm not sure. I mean, it was all right, you know. I mean, I'm just not really excited by either of these teams, like I said. After that, though, we've got CM Punk and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins all face to face. So for this week's second, what are we calling Seth Rollins? This week he was wearing this like purple pant and shirt set that was really loose and kind of flowy, but it was like it had like squares, like they weren't. It was like the squares were in the fabric themselves. Like the fabric had, like, yeah, like they were quilted almost. So I called him Quilted Future Grimace because it was purple. Super funny because CM Punk then proceeded to call him Grimace. So I was like, at least I know, you know, like what I thought was valid. But basically, Roman Reigns comes out and he basic promo. Seth Rollins comes out. He's like, hey, you know, why didn't you leave me alone and let me handle CM Punk? I could have finished him forever, blah, blah, blah. But then he's like, but it's never been about CM Punk. It's been about you and me. And then CM Punk comes out and he was like, you know, he like gets up on the top rope and he's like sitting up, he's like squatting up on the top rope and he's like, my fist is taped up and it's not because we're here to talk. So before the circus kicks off, let me remind each of you that neither of you could beat me without help because you haven't and you can't. And then but he looks at Paul Heyman and he says, and thanks for delivering up your tribal chief to me so easily. I appreciate it. And at which point Roman Reigns kind of looks at Paul Heyman and Paul Heyman's begging off like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, this is, you know, I definitely did this type of begging.
Yeah.
At which point CM Punk comes off the top rope and starts brawling with Roman Reigns, but then Seth Rollins gets involved and it's just like a 3-way, like switching spots brawl out pretty much for the rest of the show. 5 minutes or so. I don't have a lot of hope for CM Punk winning for some reason. I think that reason is probably Roman Reigns. Just
No,
because
the reason is Triple H.
Roman wins, LOL.
The reason is Triple H. He's as petty as his old man. Well, his father-in-law. He's petty. He got him back because he could, because he saw an opportunity, and he put him over Drew because he doesn't have plans for Drew anyway. But there's no way that he's going to put him over the Golden Boy. It's just not going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. And
that's why it's a 3-way, so that they can. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You can beat him without beating him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plausible deniability.
Yeah. Like, oh, you didn't take the pin.
Yeah.
Or there was 3 people in that match or whatever. However they want to justify it, but
Yeah.
He's
never gonna get that main event either.
Nah, probably not.
Never gonna get it. It's what he wanted. It was like the only thing he wanted left before he left in the first place. Never was gonna get it.
No.
Like we were talking about earlier about fake main events. Oh well, you face the Undertaker. That's a main event. It's like main event goes out at the end of the show, and everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Punk was right about that, and he's right about. And now he has twice as many opportunities because WrestleMania is a 2-night affair, and he's never gonna get it.
It's ridiculous.
Congrats, Punk.
It sucks.
Congrats, you got mad. You got mad at AEW for reasons, and now there's one thing that you want in WWE, and they're still not going to give it to you because the guy in charge is the guy you called a doofus. So
the guy in charge is a doofus sometimes. So
he is a doofus sometimes, but don't call the doofus a doofus if he's in charge of your booking.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting booked, so doofus. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the in-between wrestling was all right. It wasn't much great, but the beginning promo and the ending promo were both pretty good, as far for what they were. It was just kind of a middling episode of SmackDown. I mean, the good shit's happening on Raw these days. The stuff on SmackDown's not bad. It's just not it's not really for me. Kind of the same way, the Moxley bump was not for me. It's just not, I'm not particularly into it. There are people who are. Cool. More power to you. Thank you for keeping the business going when I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Because sometimes it happens. I mean, like right now, I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about wrestling, though, is that it's a buffet.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even if the whole show sucks except for one thing, at least you like that one thing. At least you got to see something that you like. WrestleMania 25, we got to see the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
That eclipses nearly every other bad thing about that show.
Right.
So,
like for me, like what I'm interested in right now, it's like, like distill me down to like a 30-minute show of clips or a 40 or depending on how long the matches are, really, it could be a few hours or it could be a couple hours between everything. But like, show me what like Ospreay and Hanger and Swerve and MJF and the Hurt
and Kingston when he comes back.
Yeah, definitely Kingston when he comes back. But like, show me like what those 4 guys in the Hurt Syndicate are doing this week.
And Tony.
Show me what. Well, women's wrestling is a whole category in its own. Yeah. But then show me what like the Punker and like Jey Uso. Show me what Punker, Gunther, and Braun Breaker are doing every week on the WWE end. That's pretty much all I want to see. And then show me what Tony and Willow and Becky and Asuka are doing every week. Because I don't. Oh, okay. I forgot to talk about this. They did have like a side-by-side, like kind of face-to-face, but they were in different locations thing with Charlotte and Tiffany. And it was hard to watch on both sides. Hard to watch.
Charlotte doesn't even look like herself anymore.
Dude, her lips are different sizes. Like the same lip on different sides. It's different sizes. It's so like, okay, it's hard for me to get over how much different she looks than she did and how off-putting it is in some places. And like, I also am. This whole promo was just hard to watch because they both were like not very good. They just were not very good. They're both like Tiffany's making the same points, but so is Charlotte. Like, I'm the best. Well, I'm new, but I'm the best new one. You know, like it. You're a pretender to the throne. Charlotte always says that. She says it to everybody.
Yeah, it's not anything
Like
that's
nothing Charlotte's
new
doing
or
is
exciting
yeah.
or groundbreaking.
Nothing Charlotte's doing is anything new, and Tiffy is saying stuff that's not really landing, and she's saying it multiple times because it's like that. I got to make sure this lands, but it's not landing. So,
Well, she's never played a baby face before, right? I think
yeah,
she's always been a heel.
somebody should
So this
instruct
is
her to play a
brand new
babyface like a
territory.
heel. Like, keep being an asshole. People liked you. People like you because like they got to like you the way you are. You're a jerk. They
Yeah.
like you for some reason anyway. Keep being a jerk. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. This whole thing was hard to watch. And it wasn't just Tiffany's inability to act really, and it wasn't just Charlotte's inability to act and the fact that she looks so jarringly different than she did before.
I'm not against anybody getting, surgery or whatever in principle. Do whatever you want to do. I mean, I feel like stuff with your face tends to not work out all that well. You can ask Michael Jackson about that. Like the more stuff you do to your face, you're just compounding, exponentially the amount that could go wrong. And if she felt like she needed to do that to be this project the image that she wanted to, I'm not against that in principle, but it is the consequences of that are no less jarring, despite the fact that I recognize her right and ability to make the decisions that she made for her face. She's hardly she doesn't even look like herself. She doesn't look like anybody I've ever seen in that company before. She looks like a completely different person.
Yeah. Like if it weren't for the tattoos, I'd be like, is that even Charlotte Flair?
Yeah.
And I
guarantee you that one, as bad as this buildup is so far, as soon as that bell rings, they're gonna put on a banger. Like,
of course they are.
Charlotte Flair, for all her overexposure, for all her, repetitiveness, when she gets in that ring, there are very few better than her.
Yeah.
Like, she is every bit as talented as WWE insists that she is. The problem isn't her talent. The problem is her overexposure.
Yeah.
And her booking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. The problems that Charlotte has are none of them are her fault. All of them are WWE's fault.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other than that, SmackDown was pretty good this week. But it was just, I don't know. I feel like Raw's the better show week to week right now. SmackDown's just not holding my interest. It's still, the runtime is still an issue. It's very hard to hold my interest over 3 hours. Yeah, it really is.
That didn't even seem like a whole lot took place in 3 hours.
No, a lot
the way
didn't.
You described it.
No, I mean, there was like little tiny, it's a lot of like sweeping shots of the city and the dude, this secondary commentator, the one that's not Wade Barrett. I can't remember his name right now. Joe Tessitore. Yeah. Dude, just talking a lot, promoting a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of him talking. Like, a lot doesn't happen. It's just he talks a lot. I don't know. I don't know. You could tell, like, sometimes, like, by the end of the 3 hours, even Wade Barrett's getting tired of it. So.
Well,
But yeah, other than that, it's just that runtime, man. That's really what drags it down for me, is that all this stuff could have happened in 2 hours. And with the same amount of wrestling.
Yeah.
So,
but instead it would have felt nice and tight.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, with that said, let's kick it over to our hot tag for the week.
Awesome. All right. Hot tag was for a special Slam Dunk Saturday version of Collision. So Collision this week was preempted by the NCAA tournament, which means that they made an interesting decision to have not only Collision come after the show, but split it into two 1 hour versions of Collision. So it's like Rampage 1 and Rampage 2. Um, I didn't realize that was only going to be an hour show. Things were nice and tight. It was like, oh wow, so it doesn't matter that I have to wait around until almost 11 at night to watch because it's only going to be an hour. So like, I actually got some sleep last night, despite the fact that I didn't plan for it. It was kind of nice. And they open up with the TNT title match that they were heavily promoting for the past 2 weeks. Um, and this was pre-taped after Dynamite, so the crowd was still hot from the Tony angle. Um, so I think that Garcia and Cole kind of took a page from Omega and Takeshita at the pay-per-view and kind of started slow to kind of like give the audience a little time to breathe and get back into it, and then they ramped it up towards the end. And I thought I'd benefit from it. At first I thought it was weird, and then I thought about it from the uh, from two different angles. Number one, the angle from the audience, like, oh yeah, you know what, this is the same audience from before, so yeah, this is to benefit them majorly. But also the second one, remember the stipulation on this was that all outside interference was barred. So what that meant, they didn't say this on commentary, but the way I figured it, my own headcanon was that, oh, so they don't have to be so frantic because they know for a fact that nothing is going to get interfered with. So they can take their time and they can do that. And then by the end of the match, they'll realize that even that strategy didn't work. And then for the third match, which we'll get to, the third match now in this series will up the ante somehow, and they'll have a completely different kind of match. Whereas the first match these guys had was kind of one speed and just kind of really fast. It was good, but it was really fast. This one was much more peaks and valleys. Um, lots more technical wrestling from Adam Cole than I'm used to seeing. It's always nice to see that he has that in his toolkit, which is nice. Um, but he worked the leg for a long time to the point where Danny Garcia was doing some great selling. He couldn't lift him for a pile driver at one point because the leg was so beat up, that kind of stuff. Like it was really good uh, psychological wrestling. The end came toward uh, looked like Adam Cole was going to hit. He had hit a second Panama Sunrise. He kicked out the first, but Garcia takes a second one on the apron, and both guys are on the floor. But Cole rolled Garcia back in as quick as he could. He lowered the knee pad, wants to lower the boom, but the time limit expires. 20-minute time limit expires is what we were talking about earlier. When you do this, it makes it so you can use it sparingly for stuff like this. And you know that when they say, oh, 15 minutes have expired and there's 5 minutes to go, that immediately puts the urgency on because you literally don't know whether they're going to end the match in that time or not. So it opens up to more possibilities. And more possibilities is always better to have more possibilities because then you open yourself up for surprises like this one. Cole came this close to winning, and there was a point where I think crucially towards the end of that, in the last like 10 seconds of the match, before he lowered the knee pad to lower the boom, um, Garcia had grabbed onto his leg for like 3 or 4 seconds, and it turned out to be precious, vital seconds because it deprived Cole of running across the amount of time that he needed to execute the boom and get the pin. If he hadn't done that, it's very likely that he would have gotten it just under the 20-minute mark. So that was really good storytelling, I thought, by Garcia and Cole there. This match was not like, it wasn't like a 5-star classic or anything, but I thought it was perfectly serviceable as the second in a series of non-conclusive finishes that promise a third one down the line that will have a finish. Probably a dynasty, probably with some sort of gimmick. I don't know what gimmick that could be yet. Nothing really seems to, probably something that doesn't have a time limit or has a 60-minute time limit, or maybe 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. I don't know, something that will keep people out and just kind of make it insular. Like, I don't think they would do a cage match two pay-per-views in a row. But something to keep the wolves at bay and also make sure there's a definitive winner. Maybe even a lights out match. Although, I mean, if it's for a title and lights out matches don't count, I don't see them doing that.
Yeah.
Now that I think about that and say that out loud, that doesn't make any sense. Bad, Adam, bad. But we'll see where it goes. Back from commercial, Max Caster's in the ring, doing his thing. This gimmick is getting over with me because I like seeing people beat the crap out of Max Caster and beating him in under 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing that, so good on them. Crucially though, in the lead up to this, before his opponent comes out, he says that Bowens is gone and he ain't coming back because he ran him out of AEW. Those are seeds.
Yeah.
Those are seeds. One of these, I guarantee you, one of these days, Bowens is going to come back, and maybe instead of sticking around getting beat up, maybe Caster just leaves. Maybe he just runs. I don't know. I think that might put Caster over because, like, think about this. He's still stood in the ring there with the likes of Brody King and Jay White and Roosh and Hanger, and he's got his carcass handed to him every single time. Hook is this week's opponent, and he hands him a minute. It's about a minute and 30 seconds, and he just completely chokes him out and wins. He didn't run from any of those, but if he runs from Bowens, that puts Bowens over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the guy he really doesn't want to face. And if he's the guy he really doesn't want to face, that means he's just on that level as all these other top level guys that have kicked him from pillar to post. So maybe that's the way they'll go with it. That's the way I would go with it. But I'm not booking. Next was, that was short. Next was Queen Aminata versus Julia Hart in their third contest, the tiebreaker. Before the match, Aminata was getting interviewed by Lexi Nair, and Serena Deeb comes in from out of frame, and she says, "Yeah, you followed. Last time you followed my game plan, and look where it got you. So here's this book," and she brings out a binder, and it's like got 1,000 holds, or these are 1,000 holds that I've learned and mastered over my time in professional wrestling in over 20 years. I want to give it to you. And Queen Aminata is like, "Nah, I think I got this." And Deeb's like, "Huh? All right, we'll see." And to me, that broadcast who was winning. And I was right. Julia Hart did win this one. I think to probably push Aminata further into the direction of finding herself in Serena Deeb's camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that. I think that's an interesting pairing. I think that Aminata could learn a lot from Serena from a wrestling standpoint. And I think even Serena could learn from Aminata in terms of having, like, I love Deeb, but she's not the most charismatic individual, especially on the mic. And while Aminata's not like, she's not like a CM Punk on the mic or anything like that, she does have a natural a personality. And as the kids say, she's got an aura to her that maybe could rub off positively on Deeb too. So maybe it's not just a one-sided relationship that they both benefit. But Julia Hart she hits this great superplex, but it's a spider superplex. So she hooks her feet onto the bottom rope after sitting on the top rope and superplexing Amanada off of it. But, she's still holding onto the ropes and she does the sit up into it. Looked great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that with a front suplex before. Like you see it with a German suplex, but you don't usually see it with a front, face-to-face suplex often.
Yeah.
And then she goes to hit her beautiful moonsault, but Amanada gets out of the way. Hart lands on her feet. She walks into the Queen's Crown headbutt, which had been Amanada's finisher up until a few weeks ago, but she kicks out, and just the buggy eyes on Queenie was just like, man, this girl has it. Like she's got this. Like I pop for anybody who has great facial expressions.
Yeah.
Because if you can sell that to the guys up in the nosebleeds, from all the way down there with your face, then you are doing something right.
Yeah.
Because they're going to react if you react. That's the basic principle. They're not going to react if you don't react, because you don't give them anything. But if you react, then they will react to your reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, Amanada tries to go for that kick with that full leg kick with the opponent draped on the bottom rope, which I guess is apparently officially named Off With Her Head, which is great. Thank you, Nigel, because you were the one who coined that last week.
Yeah.
And it was great and thematic and everything. But Hart gets out of the way, rolls her up, stacks her real tight, and gets the 1, 2, 3. I mean, it was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as their last one. But it wasn't given as much time as their last one either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. I don't think they're going to be revisiting this, but I do think that Queen Amanada will finally be pushed into the direction of being under Serena Deeb's tutelage, which will give them both something to do. Maybe they can feud with the Vendetta or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's another tag team for a prospective tag team division.
I mean, yeah, that would be another tag team.
We keep talking about it, how they're slowly doing this. They're slowly pairing women off with each other in alliances. I still think that that's on the table. I think it's being done quietly. I think they're doing it to do I think they're learning from the WWE's mistake. Because when they introduced tag team belts for the women, they had basically the Iconics and Bayley and Sasha as real tag teams, and everybody else was slapdashed together. I think the Riot Squad was in there too, but everybody else was slapdashed in there. We're going to put these random teams together and blah, blah, blah. And so there was no real division. This time, I think they're learning from that, and they're building a division, and then making the belts, which is the correct way to do it. So I hope I'm right, because there are a lot of ladies on that roster now, and they could really benefit from tag team title belts.
Yeah.
Especially if they're going to be merging the international and the continental title. If they do go through with that, that'll be 1 for 1. So there'll still be too many belts, but it'll be okay because it's a women's set. The main event was Don Callis family, the Murder Machines and Takeshita versus Powerhouse Hobbs, Mark Briscoe, and Rocky Romero. It's always good to see Rocky Romero, but every time you see him, he's the one taking the pin, because that's the only reason he shows up on TV. Yeah. Is to give the crowd a show and then to eat the pin for whatever team he's on. That being said, it was fun. Like, all trios matches in AEW are fun. I can't think of a bad trios match outside of squashes. Like, they're all fun, all of them. I don't know what it is about the extra 2 people in the match that make it so much fun, but it does. Like, there's something inherent in that style that just makes it a lot of fun. But yeah, like, there was this one crazy spot that kept getting played over and over online today about how Rocky dove through the ropes only to get caught by Cage and then immediately suplexed. And like, I know he did that last week to Hologram, but it's awesome every time, every single time. Like I love it. I absolutely love it. Hobbs looked great here. He was giving spine busters to everybody. It was great. But the heels isolated Rocky at the end of the day. They gave him the Murder Machine gave their choke bomb finisher, the choke slam / power bomb finisher, and then they fed him to catch it for the Raging Fire on top of that. So nobody's getting out of those two straight in a row, much less Rocky Romero. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rocky. Love you. You're amazing. You're an asset to this industry and to this business. But I mean, I think you know where you are on the card. I don't think this is insulting to say. I mean, it's academic. Ultimately, this was a nice tight hour of wrestling. It was
Yeah, it
weird
was.
having the trios match in the main event over the title match, but I kind of get why they did it. They wanted to, because it was taped right after Dynamite, they wanted to retain as many fans there to react to that as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a common TK strategy. I've been in crowds where that was the strategy. The whole, I get it. I totally get it. Um, because we tape on a Sunday night, we will be covering the second part of Slam Dunk Collision next week, as I not the very maybe the very first lockup for a Sunday show that we've done so far.
Yeah, it'll be the very first lockup that's not a Raw.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, we'll cover that.
Hell yeah.
So yeah. So that covers the hot tag. Aaron, what do we do after the hot tag?
Well, now it's time to do like the pros do and call it in the ring.
That's right. That's right. I remember now. Let's go do that, shall we? Okay, so we kind of alluded to this earlier when we talked about Blue Sky and some people's reactions, but there were some other things that happened on Blue Sky, and I'm sure on Twitter is the hellscape that it is, um, that we need to address. For calling it in the ring this week, we kind of need to have an adult conversation with the IWC. I don't know, Aaron, if you want to, get into the details of what happened. That is your preference, and that is not my story to tell. But uh, suffice to say that the IWC was given a lot of material to work with this week for what passes for discourse on social media, and a lot of things were said, a lot of things were flung at people, and it became very clear to us that this, as a podcast that does point out negatives when when they're apparent, when they're called for, um we try to be positive in our love for professional wrestling, the love for the sport, the art, the business, whatever you want to call it. um that we need to kind of lay some things out in terms of where we stand on certain things, specifically um watching WWE as a fan, and the moral and ethical implications thereof. I know that if you've been with us from the beginning and you've listened to our stories from that very first episode of our show, you know the reasons why I don't watch WWE anymore, and uh, more reasons have come and gone, and I don't disagree with a lot of the things that some of these people are saying about the company, about the people who run it specifically, not necessarily the people who perform, but the people who run it. Um, that being said, I think there's a difference. There's a stark difference of between engaging with and enjoying art because you love it and endorsing the things that the people who run it do in their off time. And I don't particularly care for people who make broad assumptions about the politics or behaviors of people who still watch WWE despite all, the extracurricular things happening. I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that's a nuanced way to look at it. I don't think that that's. I think it's rather ignorant, especially since most of these arguments are between people who don't know each other. They just don't. Like Aaron and I have been friends for almost 2 decades now. I can guarantee you that I know this man's heart and I know this man's soul. And there was something that someone accused him of being who did not know him that could not be further from the truth. I won't repeat it here unless Aaron wants to disclose that himself. That's not a line that I'm willing to cross. It was deplorable. It was disgusting. And it wasn't true. And I think that
yes.
I think that we need to have a discussion of how we treat each other despite our differing interests.
Just so we don't have to dance around it any further, because I watch WWE and even occasionally enjoy it, I got called a fascist this week and was told that I love Nazis because of a connection that the McMahons have with the current administration. And okay, I understand like the McMahons have a connection with the current administration, but other than making a couple appearances on TV, nobody with the last name McMahon has anything to do with WWE anymore. And on top of that, Triple H being somebody's son-in-law does not immediately make him a terrible person, but also it doesn't make me a terrible person for not giving a shit who runs the company and just enjoying the wrestling. And that's the problem here, I think. And then that's the problem that's come to arise in the past like week or so, is that there is a pro wrestling but anti WWE contingent out there who wants to insist that if you watch WWE and enjoy it in any capacity, that you are the MAGA fascist racist that they assume everyone in WWE's front office are, or that you support. I've been accused of supporting human trafficking. I've been accused of supporting rape. I've been accused of supporting all kinds of things that none of that is true. I just watched WWE as a podcaster and a wrestling fan. I had one person who came after me who very much enjoys. I mean, the logic that was being used against me would cross apply to literally every professional sport. Because no professional sport, NBA, NFL, NHL, probably professional cricket, who fucking knows, is free of allegations of terrible behavior by players or owners or someone involved in the organizations. And yet, most of these people still enjoy one of those or two. I watch WWE. I also watch the NFL. I don't consider my recreation and my escape time to be a time where I have to worry about politics and stuff like that. Okay, who cares if the company donates to Trump's causes? Okay, I don't agree with it, but so does Tony Khan's dad, okay? And so does Chris Jericho. So like if their connection to political causes is the reason I can't watch WWE, then why is everybody still watching the company that one of their champions is a legit like MAGA J6er dude? Like, it's a horrible double standard. So why are we bringing it into it? Like, wrestling is the one place where we can all come together and enjoy something, and the politics and all that stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the one place that we have left, or we had left until you all brought this into it.
And if it does matter to you personally, that's absolutely your right. What you don't have the right to do is judge other people for what they enjoy, unless it's out and out absolute, Nazi propaganda, which WWE is not. Like, up until recently, when they started dropping F-bombs on Netflix, it was, up until very recently, it was aimed at families and children. And it was, like, except for a couple of guests that may have leaned right, which they never talked about on camera, then it wasn't really a political thing, and continues to not be. The
No.
product that they put forth is not. Now, I mean, do they do other things that are suspect? Yeah, absolutely. We've talked many times about how we hate their connection to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and how they are acting as a propaganda wing over there. We boycott those shows. But you notice we never talk about actually spending money on them. They're on, if we were to watch them, we would be watching them on services we already pay for independently of that. They're not getting extra money from us. We're boycotting the Saudi Arabia shows altogether.
Altogether.
Out of principle. I don't feel like there's a place for somebody who doesn't know either one of us to judge us until they listen to our podcast, which they should do, because we need a bigger audience. Let's be real here. I mean, what you think I'm gonna just jerk you guys around? No, we would love a bigger audience, and I feel like they would know us better and maybe consider where we're coming from. And the fact of the matter is, like, maybe, it took me a long time to not watch WWE, because for a lot of people, it's like their comfort zone. I cannot remember a time where I was not a fan of wrestling. It has always been there. Even when my friends and my brothers, dropped off at various points, it was always, my thing. It was always there for me. And so, and I didn't stop watching WWE until I had an alternative in AEW, a reasonable one. Not, you could always argue TNA or whatever, but like trying to find that and then trying to watch it at the time was, it was rough. Even if WWE is worse, they weren't worse than TNA is worse. Let me tell you. I feel like if you treat everybody, and this may seem condescending, so I apologize if it seems like that, especially since I've been railing against people being condescending to other people. This may come off slightly hypocritical, but you don't know where people are on their journey at any given moment. It took me a long time to kind of drop off the WWE horse after several years of kind of wanting to and not being able to, because otherwise I wouldn't have wrestling. And that would have been like a part of me that had died. It had been so ingrained in my identity, for better or for worse. If I had given it up on that without having an alternative, I felt like that was a part of me that I wasn't willing to give up, because it was such a huge part of who I was. Now, to further explain this, I'm going to tell a story. But first, I'm going to check on my daughter. So 1, 2, 3, pause. So, for the sake of this story, because it involves people I know, I will not use names, but to illustrate a point, I'll be using just, pseudonyms, I guess. I had a friend. We'll call them friend A. And we were friends for a very long time. We were very close. We did a ton of stuff together. We had a lot of common interests. We grew a lot with each other based on proximity alone. Several years into that friendship, I discovered that that friend had only a couple years prior to that. So in the middle of this, uh, done something to another one of my friends. We'll call them friend B. That was pretty much unconscionable, and it was a real shock. And it was something that, from the outside, if you were just looking at it with no, if you were to be just told the situation without any personal attachment to anybody involved, you would say, "Oh well, friend A, you got to get rid of that guy. He's a jerk. He's not somebody you want. He's an actual criminal. You want to get away from them as quickly as possible. Take friend B's side, and that's that." But it wasn't that simple, because that wasn't the person. I know this is going to sound like a lot of people who have worked under Vince McMahon closely and have had personal relationships, but that's not the person I knew. And it took me a very long time to come to terms with the fact that he did the things that he did, and he was simultaneously the person that I knew and also this other person that I didn't know. And it was, it took me a long time. It took me nearly, from the time that I found out about it to the time that I finally kind of made the break. It was nearly a year. It took me a long time, because I was still holding on to the memories of the person that I knew and that I valued, and whose friendship I held in up to a lofty place in my heart. And I think that you know it's a lot like grief. Everybody processes grief their own way, and it takes their own time. And just like you shouldn't judge people's grief, you shouldn't judge somebody's actions along these kind of lines, because you don't know where they are in their journey. So if you had asked me the day after I found out what friend A did after friend B, it would be very much like the denial stage of grief. I would be like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And I would very much like, but you ask me 3 months later and it's like, okay, I'm kind of coming to terms with this. How do I figure it out? And 9 months down the line, there's a plan. And then by a year from the uh the knowledge being given to me, I was gone. But if you just picked any random point on the line, you don't know what's going on in my mind. You don't know what my plans are, etc. And I think that's kind of how you have to take it for people in their WWE fandom when they find out a bunch of this stuff. Now, some people are gonna wave it off. Some people are going to cheer, simply because they're trolls and they're spiteful. Those are few and far between, no matter how loud they are on the internet. Um, but you know, and some people are just going to hang on, and they're going to separate the art from the artist, so to speak, and that's their right. They can do that. I mean, it's not like they're you know they're seeing this company as the Nazi company and then cheering for them because they feel it is the Nazi company. That's a whole different thing. um, but I look at it as like, maybe people will come around to my way of thinking. And again, like I said, that sounds condescending, and I'm sorry, but there's really no other way I can think to phrase it. Um, and if they don't, well, oh well. You know, that's not something that that particular thing isn't something I'm willing to break a friendship over. It's silly to do that. But like, if they are on their own journey to come to terms to the same spot you are in, you have to give them that chance, because if you don't give them that chance, then they're going to go the other way to spite you. Because the only thing that you prove by calling somebody out a Nazi in a black and white way without knowing them or anything about their personal history or anything about what's going on in their brains regarding the situation, all that you've done by being a jerk about it is proven that you're a jerk. That's literally all you've proven. And it's a lot easier to have a conversation about it and to convince somebody of your point of view by being civil, even if it takes longer than you want, longer than is convenient for you, than it is to completely turn somebody off by, raising their spite walls because, oh man, the people who feel differently than I am, their representative, all they're doing is calling people Nazis. I can't take them seriously at all. Like, you don't win anybody over with that. So I don't know why you're so mad at individual people that you've never met. Nobody's defending, nobody, at least on Blue Sky, even the people who watch WWE, they're not defending any of the Janelle Grant stuff. They're not defending the Ring Boy scandal. They're not defending Saudi Arabia. They're not defending any of that stuff. They just want to watch the wrestling. The wrestling that they grew up with, that they're comfortable with, the presentation that they like, the performers that they like, that they have emotional connection to. Is it dicey? Maybe. Depends on your point of view. But I don't think that that's a reason to go around on your high horse and looking down on people, for their entertainment choices. I don't think it's justified. And I think the people who do that need to take a long look in the mirror and come to terms with how authoritarian they really are. Because clearly they want to impose their own set of values on everyone else.
Yeah, that's the big thing. They're like, you're obviously this if you watch WWE. No, I'm not. That's the thing. Everybody's different. Everybody's complicated. Everybody's something. But and yeah, there's people on the show that are like if you had done that Raw Netflix debut and like I don't know, some pick a Gulf of Mexico coast state in between Louisiana and Florida. And Hulk Hogan would have been cheered. Okay?
Yeah. Most likely.
But like LA, it's a completely different thing. Like you can't say like just because we like or enjoy WWE that we're all Nazis and fascists. Just I mean, the crowd literally booed Hulk Hogan out of the building because he was a racist. Like that's
yep. It was the exact reason.
Yeah.
And racism kind of goes hand in hand with fascism. So clearly, just by that point alone, it's a far more gray, complicated, nuanced thing than people like that want to make it out to be.
And I mean, on top of that, I just watch WWE for the wrestling. Like, I'm not thinking about politics when I watch it. They're not trotting political people out all the time and, being like, hey, do this or vote this way. Like, are the influencers they have involved in, like, what's going on right now and, like, going up to WrestleMania a little bit more right-wing leaning? Yeah. I don't really see Tony Hinchcliffe as a right-wing influencer as much as I see him as just a terrible comedian. I think even the right wing doesn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty bad when like the left and the you made a disgusting comment that was so disgusting that the left and the right were like,
ew.
Lean away from that guy.
Yep.
You're in the bad center, the center that everybody's leaning away from because like, ooh, we don't.
Makes you kind of wonder who decided that was like a good person to book for that. Who in the WWE front office decided, oh, you know who we should get? The guy that nobody likes.
I don't know. I think it was probably TKO that did this.
Yeah,
Because
most
like
likely.
TKO's like super connected to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's they were probably like, "Hey, you should do it." And he's like, "I don't know shit about wrestling, but you know who does? Tony Hinchcliffe." And the reason he would have said that is because every time Joe Rogan had a wrestler like DDP or Undertaker or somebody on his show, he also had on Tony Hinchcliffe because he's like, "This is the guy I know who knows the most about wrestling." Turns out
He's
Tony Hinchcliffe
the
does no
bridge.
dick
Yeah.
about wrestling. He has no dick about wrestling. He's like the worst of casual fans, and he somehow convinced Joe Rogan that he's a wrestling fan so that he can be on the show every time like somebody huge like that is, because he knows there's going to be a ton of numbers and he's going to get a lot of exposure to wrestling fans.
Yeah.
But it turns out that we all kind of just hate him because of that, and nobody wants to watch this non-televised event, which a lot of people I guess don't understand. Like, why would they even air this? What is the point of this? But it's not televised, guys. It's not. They're not airing
Yeah.
it at all. I don't know who's putting it on, but WWE's not putting it on TV. And I don't fucking blame them, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, somebody along the line was like, you know what? If y'all are gonna force this shit through, we're not putting this shit on TV.
Yeah.
Like, if we're gonna have to do this, it's a bad idea to put it on TV. And they put their foot down about it, and were
like
able to.
they'll promote it as if it's like a VIP event that it's a small venue, only first come first serve, only certain people are going to get. They'll promote it like that to get the money out of it, but they're going to draw the line at putting that on TV because they know better.
Yeah, I mean the way this is the initial conversation that got me called a fascist, though, is because I was like, do we have to bring this shit like politics? And because like people were railing against the announcement of this event, like Trump himself was going to be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like, it's just a terrible comedian. Like, because that's all he is to me. You know,
For the
somebody
record,
pointed out somebody
if Trump
pointed out
ever does
afterwards
show
what he
up
said.
though, if Trump ever does show up though, I think that it's safe to say.
Oh no, that'll be
that's
done.
probably-
That'll be it for me.
done.
This will be an
Yeah.
AEW only podcast after that.
Yep.
100%.
And I mean, because at that point, it's like in no, I don't think in the history of WWE, so far as I can tell, that I can recall anyway, the closest they've ever done to having a sitting president be on their show are impersonators.
Yeah.
So far as I can tell. So if
Yeah.
they get, so the first time they do it is that guy, even with his ties to it prior to his first term as president. I mean, obviously that shows exactly where they stand.
Yeah. That would have been enough for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just there was. I mean, yeah, I don't like it either. Okay, but that doesn't mean you get to like be like, oh well, they're obviously in bed with Trump and the right way. I mean, okay, whatever. Linda McMahon is part of his administration. She's helping to dismantle the Department of Education. I get it. I don't like it either.
That one affects me personally too.
Yeah, me too.
My oldest is autistic, and IEPs, even though the states are handling stuff, most of it, IEPs are handled by the federal government. So that does fall under the Department of Education.
Mhm.
So my autistic 6-year-old, his future is kind of up in the air. So yeah, I am not a huge fan of Linda McMahon either. But and I'm not a fan of Triple H sitting head of creative, sitting behind her in a confirmation.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. That was a bad look.
I didn't like the optics of that, even if he was just, being a good son-in-law or whatever. The optics of that were awful, but that's circumstantial at best.
Yeah.
And
none of this occurred on WWE television.
Yeah.
None of it.
This isn't something that they are putting forth on their programming as any kind of promotion. They're not promoting the presidency, the current White House. They're not saying the word McMahon at all unless Stephanie's in the audience.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are they tangentially related? Yeah, probably. But, that's about as far as you can take it without, if you want to give me, solid evidence that they, of back, you know, handshake deals or whatever, written documents that make TKO and WWE an official propaganda wing of the Trump administration. You want to show me those documents? Okay, fine. I'll admit you were right. I'll take my lumps, and I probably won't be as obnoxious as you guys are. But yeah, then maybe I'll more heavily, you know, judge, question, maybe is the better word, people who watch knowing all of this. And that's a big leap. It's a big leap that people would even know that if it was a true fact. But
Yeah.
until such time, I'm not going to build a bridge nobody asked me to build. It takes too much effort emotionally, mentally, physically even.
Yeah.
Like it's not what I want. Like, I mean, and granted, this is easy for me to say since I've already given up on watching WWE, but I still do this podcast. And if you notice, I may throw a barb or two here or there, but I don't judge Aaron for watching WWE. Mostly, when I throw in my little comments, it's to say, "Oh, that could work. Oh, that sounds like fun." Oh, I mean, unless something's really, really bad and we both agree on it.
Yeah, we
But
usually
like,
agree when it's terrible.
and we usually do agree when it's terrible. But like, I'm not above, judging the product on its merits alone. And I think for this forum, that's what our aim is to just kind of, grade it as it is presented to us as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Pretty much. They
is there
start
something
waving a
wrong with
fascist
that?
flag in my face on their television program, I'll stop watching it.
Yeah.
But they're not doing this on TV. Like all the stuff their higher ups are doing, these aren't people that get in the ring. This isn't like the mid '90s where Ric Flair had the book and he was in the ring, and if he was a
Or Bob
Republican
Backlund was
asshole,
running for office.
yeah, like we don't have any of that shit. It's not happening on TV. Like, and then the higher ups aren't in the ring. I don't have to like support these people. I fast forward through Logan Paul segments even, and we don't watch Saudi Arabia shows. Like, I feel like I do a pretty good job of breaking away from the scumbag part of it as much as I possibly can, while still watching, enjoying, and covering the other parts. Like, you're not going to tell me I've met a bunch of these people that are on TV. You are never going to convince me that Rey Mysterio is a scumbag because he's a very nice man.
Yeah. Do you think Sami Zayn is a scumbag?
Not
the
a
guy
chance.
who donates his, who raises money for a local or a traveling, what is it called? It's like a traveling clinic in Syria.
Yeah.
You're gonna call that guy a fascist?
Yeah.
Because
no.
he works there? Because he's just trying to take care of his family the best way, in the best way that he knows how, and try to, maybe it's naive, but maybe try and change the culture from the inside.
Yeah. Like, you're
I
not going to
mean,
ever convince me that CM Punk's a MAGA guy. Not
no.
ever. Because I
I mean, you
fucking
can
know
convince
better.
me he's a jerk very
Yeah,
easily, but he's not a
sure.
MAGA jerk.
I'm
He's
a
not a
fucking
MAGA
jerk. Yeah, I'm a jerk, but I'm not a MAGA jerk. That's the thing. Like, you're never gonna convince me that guy's like a MAGA supporter and stuff like that.
No.
Like, no, there's a bunch of wrestlers that you have. I mean, and then a bunch more that you couldn't tell me their politics one way or the other. And if you could, you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Take it from somebody who's been in a bunch of wrestling locker rooms. There's a lot more of those guys back there than there are lefties. There are a lot more.
Who would have thought the Val Venus, the guy with the porn star gimmick, would have been super conservative?
It's even weirder when you dive into what he does now. He works at a pot dispensary.
Yeah. My friend Ben always used to say about our manager at the time, Bill. He liked to call himself a libertarian, but really what Ben always called him was, oh, he's not a libertarian. He's just a conservative. He's a Republican who likes to smoke pot. And that's kind of what
that's pretty true.
It's kind of what Sean Morley is. He's a Republican who wants to smoke pot legally.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, trust me, take it from somebody who's been in a bunch of wrestling locker rooms with a bunch of famous different people too. There's a lot more of them than there are of us in this business. And a lot of people just don't talk about it. We don't talk about it because back in a wrestling locker room, you get in a fight talking about it. Like, one or two guys disagree and you get in a fight. So we just don't. We don't bring it back there. And I don't give a good god dang who the guy, like the promoter, if he likes Trump, I kind of don't care. Do his checks clear and are his shows free of that politics? And usually the answers are yes and yes. And that's how most wrestlers operate too. Yeah, even your lefty ones, if they got a MAGA promoter who's, been paying them since before this shit happened, they're still working there. Promise.
Yeah, because guess what? They aren't getting paid otherwise.
Yeah.
This is their vocation. This is their dream. This is what they want to do with their lives. Like, sometimes you sacrifice things to chase your dreams. And if that means working for somebody whose politics don't align with yours, well, guess what? That's 50% of people that you're going to run into.
Mm-hmm. Almost every job you can get, if the company doesn't agree with your politics, you're definitely working with somebody who does.
Yeah.
Like, you're definitely, I worked at the United Way at a charity organization, and there was like a strong contingent of people who worked there who were anti-union. So, like, explain that.
I got nothing.
Neither do I. All I know is that, like, my politics did not agree with that or align with that at all. But I had to work with those people, and we still ran a functioning charity.
Yeah.
So everybody from every walk of life is everywhere. Like, you just have to navigate. And calling people a Nazi because they watch one wrestling company over the one that you like better is stupid.
Especially when aimed at you, when you watch both of those things anyway.
Yeah, I watch. Yeah,
you don't watch one over the other. You watch them both, at the same time. Like, it's absolutely speaking from ignorance on their part.
Yeah, and let's be perfectly honest here. When I spend money on wrestling stuff, it's usually AEW stuff. Because, I really dig, like, the Will Ospreay jerseys. And I really don't really like anything that's coming out of WWE merch-wise. And I'm not paying $600 for a freaking replica belt. So, it's just...
it's... At that point, you might as well just buy a belt, from, like, a local belt maker. It'll probably cost you the same. It'll probably be of higher quality.
I definitely know a couple of I definitely know a couple of belt makers who would make me a WWE replica for less than $600. Just because they don't have to think up the design. They can just go and, like, draw the plates and be done. And they do it because they know I'd never use it anywhere. I just put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that option, but yeah, why would I do that? But also, like, I'm just, like, I already pay for Netflix. I'm not giving Netflix money just because WWE's on there. Not in the fashion that I'm giving Max money because AEW's on there. That's the only reason I'm giving Max money.
Yeah.
Like, I like a lot of their programming, and I'm watching a bunch of different stuff. Like, Doctor Who's on there, so I'm watching Doctor Who on Max, of course, But
they have all the Godzilla. Well, most of the Godzilla films.
Yeah, they have a bunch. They have like a whole kaiju section, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
But like, so there's rad stuff I'm finding now. But I definitely did subscribe to Max because AEW was on there. Because otherwise, I would be on my Max. It's not on right now because there's not a Game of Thrones show on. Yeah. That's usually how it goes. Like, House of the Dragon was on. I had Max. It's over. Okay, my subscription to Max is going away because I'm not spending the $18 or $20 a month. But now AEW's on there, so they get my money all the time. Like, I support one company more than I do the other, financially and, like, politically and everything. Like, they kind of align with everything I do. But I still watch WWE because I do this show, and I probably would watch Raw and not SmackDown still, and probably still NXT also, if I didn't do this show. Like, you're not going to tell me NXT is bad. Like, they got one of the best women's divisions in wrestling. And they have a really great men's division, too. Who would have thought it would have been that way
2 years ago, too?
Huh?
Like, who would have thought you'd be able to say that 2 years ago, too?
No.
Like,
I never would have pegged it. Never. If somebody was like, If 2 or 3 years ago, somebody's like NXT is going to have like a bomb ass women's division, and you're going to have a hard time picking like favorites between them and AEW. I'd have been like, you're fucking
2.0 was
lying.
2.0 was rough.
Oh god, yeah. I watched like 2 episodes of that show. I was like, this is too colorful. Like straight up, I was just like, I don't like this. Something's wrong with this.
Why is Lisa Frank in wrestling?
Yeah, like this is toxically positive. Just the way it looks is toxic positive. Like,
that being said,
yeah,
we want to be healthily positive. So please make it easier on us guys and just have a little bit of reflection, a little bit of restraint. I know times are really, really rough right now.
mm-hmm.
And everybody is stressed out. And everybody, especially when you go online, tends to look at things and how they are and just leap to the worst possible conclusion because, yeah, things are crappy. Things are real bad right now, guys, in this country.
Yeah.
But that's no excuse to be a complete ass to each other.
True.
Over wrestling. For wrestling, guys.
Yeah, this should
Come
be bringing
on.
us together.
We all love this thing. This silly little fake sport. This wonderful, absolutely insane art form. The only art form that kind of relies on interactivity with an audience where we're part of the show inherently if we go live. Like nothing else is like that inherently. It's a beautiful, wonderful, unique art form. Do not bring it down for everybody by casting aspersions on people you don't know over the most minor of appearances without digging deeper. Look at yourselves in the mirror and pull a Taylor Swift and just admit, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Just have that humility and we can all start trying to get along again. Okay? We want to get along. We want all of you guys to have fun with this, just like we do. But nobody's going to have fun if you're just being a jerk the entire time.
Yeah.
Just chill.
Fair enough.
All right. That's enough bringing you down. We promise next time we'll figure out a call in the ring segment that ends a little bit less exasperation and a little bit more laughter.
Yeah, we'll have a less adult convo and more silliness and back to our normal.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. As far as that goes, I think that's it for the week, and it's been a good week. Wrestling was good this week. We just had to have this nice stern adult talk with you, IWC, at the end.
Yeah.
Because
gotta
we need
wag
a
our
talking
finger.
to sometimes. Yeah, sometimes you need a talking to and you need to stop. But other than that, everybody be safe out there. Do your thing. Keep your head up. We love you.
Love you guys. Peace. See you next week.
Peace.